And we are on the air again, live from Stately Torch Tower. Johnnie Torch Live number 13 and Torch News Roundup number 55. Okay, so as we continue on here with another live broadcast, how are you? How are you doing? Doing another day, Saturday nights. But I've been pretty prolific this week. I already did 2 soapbox rants. And on Saturday, we did another live broadcast. But they say that you're supposed to keep doing videos at least several times a week, if not daily. So maybe this will be a way to boost my profile here on YouTube. I don't know. I don't think anybody really watches the live shows, do they? Let me know. Of course, I don't have a very big following as it is. I have 64, no, I have 63 supporters now. I lost another subscriber, probably because I did that soapbox. Soapbox became pretty popular, the one about the superheroine costumes. Views on that one already in 2 days, which is pretty good for me. The race-changing one that I did, the folly of race-changing, only got about 5 views, I think. Expected to be the other way around, but I think we like our superheroine costumes more than we worry about race changes, maybe. I don't know. You're not going to hear me, hyping my Patreons and whatever. I don't know. I would like to have something like that. I don't have enough subscribers to, facilitate something like that. So that's maybe one of the benefits of listening to my show. You don't hear me going on about supporting me and this and that. The best thing you can do is, if you like the show, share it. Subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Like it. I don't really want to start the show on a downer. Sounds like a bit of a downer we're starting on. Let me see if I can get the chat up in case somebody is in the chat. Just put it over here to make sure. I always pop it out. Follow the chat in case someone is watching live, of course. Mention, of course, that I did win. I did successfully pick Mayweather beating McGregor. I thought it was going to go the distance. Didn't go the distance, but McGregor was TKO'd, I guess, in the 10th round. They're, I guess, supposedly going to retire. I think he always retires after his fights, but this is supposedly the last one. And the guy is, getting up there. He's like 40-something, and, he had a great career and undefeated. Hats off to him for a great fight and an even better victory. And, McGregor talked a lot of trash. That's not the best way. It's a self-motivator, maybe, but motivating the other guy. All right, so first off, before we get to our subjects here, the first subject we have about today, we got a lot of subjects. If you looked at the in the description, I want to touch on a lot of things here. First off, it was recently Jack King Kirby's Centennial, and we want to spend a few moments talking about the King. Happy 100th birthday, Jack King Kirby. Had he been alive, of course, he'd be 100. In 1994, Jack, of course, one of the greats, one of the forefathers of comics. So we wouldn't have half the comic characters we have if not for him. I go out on a limb saying that maybe, but we certainly wouldn't have probably 3/4 of the original Marvel universe without Jack and his co-creating so many, the Hulk, X-Men, Thor, I believe. Yeah, I mean, you throw a stone and you can't help but hit one of Jack's co-creations of the Fantastic Four, of course. Jack started his career with Joe Simon creating Captain America, which of course Stan brought back, and he became even more popular in the 60s than in the 40s. That, of course, was a co-creation between Joe Simon and Jack. Stan and Jack, of course, created so many, like I just mentioned. Jack, of course, was in the war himself, so patriotism was knew a lot about actually fighting in World War II. Then of course he left Marvel famously to go to DC. I don't think it really worked out so well for him over there. I personally don't like too much of his DC work. There's the New Gods, which I never really liked. I always felt they kind of forced that on to Superman because he didn't have the greatest rogues gallery, and now Superman's pretty much always fighting. Well, at least years ago when I read comics, like in the '90s, he was always fighting the New Gods characters, Darkseid and Calabac and Steppenwolf. But I think that the collaborations he did with Stan was, and of course he went back to Marvel and continued to draw for Captain America and several other things. But yeah, there wouldn't be really a Marvel universe without Jack Kirby's contributions, and of course there wouldn't be a lot of the DC stuff that still resonates now, that they use a lot now of Jack's work. So can't sell his DC stuff short. Contention between fans for some reason that Jack is more responsible for Marvel's success than Stan and this and that. I don't want to get into any of that right now because we're celebrating Jack, but um, I think it's really counterproductive and stupid, really, because we should be celebrating both brought two comics. I mean, the comics were made better because of both of them. So there's no reason to really create some kind of animosity between them, when I doubt there really was in real life. And of course, Jack's legacy lives on. I myself, he wasn't my favorite artist, and I'm sure you hear that from a lot of people. He wasn't their favorite, but he really introduced a dynamic style of art that really is what makes up as an action medium. A dynamic uh, figures and dynamic. I always was impressed so much by Jack's machinery, for lack of a better term, machinery, buildings, designing Reed Richards equipment and stuff. That was stuff that a normal person, for lack of a better term, a normal person couldn't think up that stuff. In that sense, especially for creating all those kinds of out-of-worldly, bizarre images that most people wouldn't dream of, but Jack did. So happy 100th birthday to Jack King Kirby. Happy Centennial. And hopefully everybody will pick up some of the old classics and relive them. All right, we've got a lot more to get to today. Let's see what else is on the agenda. What are we going to get to first? I think I will tackle... There's a lot of news in the CW casting that I haven't got to, so none of this is probably new. And I don't really worry about the casting of these shows because, in a way, I like to be surprised in advance all of the stuff. So, but I've read about it and I know pretty much the stuff that's going on. I might as well minutes we'll talk about it, and let me know if you're excited about some of these characters and casting choices that we have for these shows. First up, we'll do Arrow. Uh, let's see. Looking at my notes to find out the names of these actors. That's Kirk Acevedo, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, as Richard Dragon. And he's going to be an antagonist this season. Because if I remember correctly, he was sort of like, he was DC's answer to Iron Fist or Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi? How do you pronounce that? I don't know. But I think he's an antagonist here, and he's supposed to be taking on the criminal underworld. I think they're still trying to do this grounded thing with Arrow this season. they pretty much succeeded last season with this. They, tried to keep it grounded and not bring in the magical and fantastical stuff. And, probably it's the best idea. Uh, try to keep it grounded in comparison to the other shows. They should play their strengths. And I think that's probably the smartest move. All right, we've also got Sandana Watson, an FBI agent who will be played by Belle, I believe is her name. And she's described as investigating Oliver Queen's connection to the Green Arrow. Frankly, haven't we seen that plenty of times? I think we've seen 3 times that there's been some kind of. There was the reporter last season, and then there was the original cop lady in the first season, and then wasn't there someone else too? Or maybe I'm just thinking of Huntress who found out. But, you know, I kind of worry that they're going to go down the same path again. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Let's take a look next at. Okay. As usual, slow on the draw here, but what do we have next? We have The Flash. They've cast their main villain for the season, and he is going to be played by Neil Sandilands? Neil Sandilands. That's how I'm pronouncing it. He's going to play the Thinker this season. That's him on the right. I don't know him. I think they said he's on. I forget what they said he was on. Was it Game of Thrones? Nah, everybody's on Game of Thrones though, so who knows? I'm probably the only person that does watch Game of Thrones. Saw 1 or 2 episodes. It's all right. Not really for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just out of step with everybody else, but I don't know. I didn't really see what to get excited over, but I don't know. That's another story. Brett will play the mechanic, who is the Thinker's right-hand woman, I guess. I don't know. I never heard of her. So Neil is playing the Thinker. Also on the left there is Danny Trejo's. Danny Trejo, who is playing Gypsy's father, Breacher. Interesting. They're giving Gypsy a bigger role this year. I don't know if she's necessarily a regular. I personally don't really feel like I need a lot more Gypsy. She's a serviceable character, but it's another one of those cases where I really didn't see what Cisco saw in her. She seems kind of like a wet blanket. I mean, she's all business and stuff. I don't know. Maybe they'll try to give her more of a personality this season. I don't know. It's going to be fun once these seasons start to actually be able to talk about these things every week, because I started doing that at the end of last season, and we really didn't get to cover that much. All right, so let's move on now. We're going to take a look. Of course, that's the guy. Isn't he the guy from the Danny on the left there? Isn't he the guy from the he was playing Marsha Brady in the Snickers commercial? That's what I recognize him from. I don't know. All right, next we have, let's go to Legends of Tomorrow. And a couple of interesting casting choices. We already heard Billy Zane is going to play P.T. Barnum. Episodes of the season. Let's see. Let me see. I lost my notes. That's what happens when you do a live broadcast. There it is. Jess McKellen as Special Agent Ava Sharp. Now, she's supposed to play a member of the Time Bureau, from what I can understand, because now we have Rip Hunter is in another role this season as the, I don't know, the leader of the Time Bureau. I don't know if that's exactly what it's called. We also have Simon Merrill, who will play Julius Caesar. So they're going back to the days of Julius Caesar for this episode, for one of the episodes. That should be interesting. We also have learned that they are going to have Gorilla Grodd appear as one of the heavies. We also heard a few weeks ago, I was in one of the Torch News Roundups, we were talking about Damien Dark is returning in a fairly significant role. I guess he's going to cross paths with Gorilla Grodd. They said this is going to be the most powered up Gorilla we've seen yet, which means I hope that he's going to be able to speak verbally through speech. That's one of the things I'm kind of still disappointed in. They haven't taken it to that level. It's kind of the progression where Arrow, they want to keep it completely grounded. Flash, they want to have like 1 foot in sci-fi and the rest of it grounded. And then you can just get crazy. Just go get crazy. And I like that. I like getting crazy. The crazier the better, as Prince would say. Um, I heard that they are trying to get Matt Ryan back as Constantine on Legends of Tomorrow, which would be interesting if they could. That should be pretty exciting because we haven't seen him since Arrow season 3. Oh, excuse me, Arrow season 4. Yeah, nobody really wants to remember season 4. That's probably why I forgot. But anyway, so it looks like things are shaping up to be pretty exciting on Legends this season. I thought last season Legends was hands down the best of all the shows, followed by Flash. I'm trying to rank them on the fly, but after Flash, it's a little bit tougher. I would maybe say Supergirl because at least it was a little ambitious. Arrow was good, but I still don't know if I would. No, I would definitely put Arrow over Supergirl. I think that I like the character of Mon-El, but it seems like the rest of that season was so bad. Even though I kind of like Mon-El. Well, since we're talking about Supergirl, let's switch over to Supergirl now and find out what we know about that. Season 3, Supergirl, and one day I got to get a webmaster to do this for me so I can get these images up faster than me having to continually button over and over and over and have nothing happen. Let's see. All right, but it's going to be worth the wait because surprisingly to me, I didn't even know this. I guess this has also been announced a while back, but Erica Durance, who played Lois Lane on Smallville, will be the new actress playing Allura, Supergirl's mom, her birth mom from Krypton, of course. Kind of surprising to me because I suppose the other actress, I even have her name here. What is it? Let's see. Laura Benedetti. Apparently she is on another show and there's going to be a scheduling conflict or something. But I was surprised to see Erica Durance. I'm happy to see her, of course. Who wouldn't be happy to see her? Um, Playing Kara's mom, though, she seems pretty young. Looking at it, it says she's 39, so she's probably old enough to, because uh, Allura died on Krypton while she was still a relatively young woman. So I guess this makes sense, but I just don't see her as being motherly in the way that Laura's Allura was. Although, looking at the picture we've got up there, that's probably the reason why. Uh, I imagine Erica's a good enough actress to pull it off. It's probably gonna be a little bit jarring after 2 seasons, but to have the character changed, the actress change, I mean, but you have to remember that, you know, it's a difficult thing in any an actor. So, you know, she has a pretty good, following from Smallville. I thought she was one of the best parts of Smallville. I imagine she's going to do well. Hopefully she'll do well. I don't know if there's anything else to say about that. All right, we got Carlos Bernard will play Maggie Sawyer's father. Of course, Maggie Sawyer is going to still be in the show, even though she's not going to be a regular anymore. I pretty much could do without Maggie entirely. They dominated the show too much with her last season, and Alex. I don't need any of it. The show is, I could go on a mini rant, but the show is not supposed to be a soap opera for the ancillary characters. Focus on Supergirl, Alex should go back to being a supporting character and being like the big sister. That's what the strength of that was before. Instead, they're sort of making Lena Luthor Kara's go-to now, which wouldn't be too big of a deal if it wasn't for the fact that A, she already had Alex. She really didn't need anybody else to have this, shoulder to cry on role. And B, then we've also got the segment that wants it to be a love affair between them two. And, there was even some kind of controversy, I believe, a little while back when the guy that plays what's his name? It's been so long. uh Winslow? Yeah, the guy that played Winslow was saying it's never going to happen. They're not going to have them fall in love, Lena and Supergirl, and it made some kind of backlash, some kind of uproar because people were so disappointed. Some people, I guess. But I don't know. That's pretty ridiculous. I wouldn't worry about that happening because, it's just stupid. Not every pair of friends is going to have to become a romantic item. I mean, that's the CW mentality, I think, that really permeates all of their shows. They're carried along by shippers that just won't let anything go, and we learned that firsthand from. All right, before we wrap this up, I also have to say, there's also been Smith is going to direct another episode. I don't believe he's going to write it. I think he's just directing it, from what I've read, because he's tweeted it on his Twitter page several times that he's working on the episode right now. So that is your quick update here. We tried to get it in about 10 minutes of the CW shows. What to look forward to, and what to not look forward to, I guess, in the coming season. The season starts the first week of October, I believe. I remember the good old days when the fall seasons used to start in September, but apparently they need more time nowadays. I don't know. All right, let's take a look now at what should we do next? Let's take a look at, how about this one? We'll stick with the TV theme. That's what I'm thinking. We've got the casting controversy. Now, if you don't know, there is a show, Teen Titans. Not Teen Titans, it's just being called Titans. That is going to be on some DC platform, digital platform. I was almost not going to cover this story because I'm not really interested, because if it's on a DC platform, I am not going to pay and subscribe to another platform. I barely want to subscribe to Netflix. I only do it because, you know, it's the only way to get the Marvel shows, and, you kind of want to stay in touch with that, not be out of the loop in these. But I definitely don't want to get another, subscription platform. All right, so right here, right now, we've got Anna Diop. If I'm pronouncing her name right, again, I'm not sure. She's been cast as Starfire in this Titans show. And the synopsis here says, Titans follows a group of young, soon-to-be superheroes recruited from every corner of the DC universe. In the action-adventure series, Dick Grayson emerges from the shadows to become the leader of a fearless band of new heroes that includes Starfire, Raven, and others. Now that sounds good because I like Dick Grayson. I really like to see him get the spotlight, and he hasn't been seen in live action since uh, Batman Forever, 1995. That's the last time I think Dick Grayson was used in live action. So on the one hand, I like this, that they're using him. On the other hand, they're supposed to be doing a Nightwing movie. So in a sense, I'd probably rather wait for Nightwing appropriately used rather than in this show. I believe Greg Berlanti, the one behind the CW series, is behind this still. Uh, and of course, the controversy is that they don't think that a lot of people don't think that Anna looks like Starfire, which she probably doesn't. I don't really have a problem with this as much as famously just done the video, The Folly of Race Changing. There really isn't a race change here. Starfire's from another planet. I'm not up enough on Titans to remember what the name of the planet is. She obviously got orange skin. The only concern there should be is that we don't know for a fact. At least I haven't heard this confirmed that she's going to have orange skin in this show, because it seems, you know, kind of strange that, they're going to, um, you know, put so much makeup on her and make her orange. Maybe they'll just keep her the way she looks normally. I don't know. Now I'll be real with y'all, because I only know how to be real with y'all. But the thing that bothers most people, I think, is that when you look at the artwork of Starfire, and you can see it right here. I've got a picture of her right up here. If you're not, looking at your screen, look at your screen. Pay attention for a minute, because you sometimes, you just listen to it while you're doing something else, and that's what I always have done. That's what kind of got me into YouTube, because I would just listen to other people ramble on, and I'd be doing my own work. It's nice to have something to listen to that you're interested in. I digress. So take a look at this picture. Now, this is the way Starfire is drawn typically. Now, you have to say she's drawn basically as a white woman with white features, so to speak. And that's why I think a lot of people don't really think that this actress looks enough like Starfire, because the intention, at least should be, to make the actor look as much like the character as the character is drawn. Like I said, it's not really a big deal to me, because she's from another planet. This is not really a case of quote unquote blackwashing. But if they do paint her orange and with the makeup and everything, and give her red hair and everything, and you also have the green eyes, and at what point, will she not look natural? That's really the question. Because, like, it reminds me of Jessica Alba as the Invisible Woman. And to their credit, they tried to make her look as much like the Invisible Woman as possible, as on the page, to the point where they put on these funny looking blue contact lenses. And like I said, to their credit, they tried, but the contact lenses looked so out of place, and the hair that they gave her, the wig, especially in the second movie, looked so ridiculous. I kind of envision that happening here. People are concerned, because at what point will her having the green contact lenses and the red hair and the orange makeup make her look ridiculous? That's a very legitimate concern. But, like I said, it's not really race changing, so I can't really complain. I don't really I don't really even think I'm going to watch this show anyway, because, like I said, I don't want to subscribe to another uh, streaming service. So, also, before we get off the subject, I also wanted to see the other cast member that's on the show that they've announced, at least. Teagan Croft, I believe, and she's going to play Raven. From what I understand, she's an Australian. She's 13 years old, kind of young, considering that they got Starfire is like, what is she, like 30 or something? Um, Again, I'm not a huge fan of Teen Titans, so I don't know a whole lot about Raven. I watched the what is it, Justice League versus Teen Titans. I remember her from that. She had a big role in that, the character. Uh, Again, I don't really know what to expect from the show. I don't think anybody else has been cast as of yet, so that should be interesting. Wait and see what happens. All right, let's get up to some of the more interesting news here that I want to talk about. We've got the first. We'll start with this one. The first picture of Misty Knight's bionic arm from a Luke Cage season 2. From, I don't know where this picture was from, to be honest. But I hope Entertainment Weekly don't disapprove of me using this picture. It looks to me kind of plasticky. That's the only thing that bothers me about this. Because, in the comics it looks like it's gold, and of course, Netflix doesn't have the kind of budget where they're gonna be able to, soup it up and make it look, very high tech. That looks kind of like what you could expect in real life to have for a, synthetic appendage. But because in the comics also it can do a lot of things. Her arm, it's got, repulsor blasts and other, other things that I don't know if they're going to put in this show. The thing that bothers me the most is that, you know, Netflix tends to want to drag out everything, and I think they're going to drag out this. This is probably not the final version of her arm. This is probably like the prototype, and they're going to probably have a full season of her with the prototype arm, and then like two, she'll get the upgrade and have it look like, more similar to the comics version. Because look at like, well, starting with Daredevil, he didn't even have his actual costume to the last episode of the first season, and you have Danny Rand still doesn't have a costume. Luke Cage is barely wearing a costume. He wears a yellow shirt every once in a while. So I think it's going to take a while before they actually make it look more like the where it's more high tech and everything. Of course, also I don't think they're gonna. I don't think because they don't want to really get too close to um the movie side of it. They're probably not going to say it's from Stark Industries or anything. It's going to be probably something from Danny Rand's company. So I like it, but I'm hoping it's going to get an upgrade at some point in the future. All right, let's move on now to. We've got our next segment here. It's going to take me a while to get this. Okay, here we go. All right, this one we've got. I was talking about female superheroine costumes. Just soapbox rant, popular. And lo and behold, they gave us our first look at from Ant Man and the Wasp. And I don't know, I got mixed feelings about it. On the one hand, it's basically what I've been saying. It's just another generic cat suit from neck to toe. It's just one big like spandex piece on it to make it look a little more high tech. In a way, it's nothing special. I like the color, really, to be honest, because, well, blue's my favorite color. Uh, I like the way, I almost said Janet. Hope has the ponytail, because even though her is in the first movie with the pixie cut, I really love the way Evangeline Lilly looks here with that ponytail. Looks great. Now, maybe there is going to be a reason for this. I'm thinking they're trying to make this work logically. For instance, in the comics, the Wasp can shrink. She doesn't need the suit to shrink. And, I'm not going to go into all the ramifications of the comic version, but I suppose in this, it's not going to be like a genetic thing. She has to wear a suit that like completely covers her, and she needs to have the mask on to be able to breathe and all this stuff. And so that's probably the reason why they're going with this all-encompassing costume instead of something a little more feminine, a little more fancy. So in a sense, I guess, but I don't know. Well, I get another picture. Let's take a look at the costume that they showed at the end of Ant Man, which is very different. Let's see. Uh, it's more colorful. You get to see the wings, and there is no sleeves, which is what I meant. Something a little different, a little more. Because what she's wearing in that other picture looks like it's essentially just Ant Man's suit, but with like female proportions. This at least looked a little more unique. You've got the wings and the mask looking a little different than his. I would have probably preferred if they went with this, and the color scheme is different too, so it looked a little more pop. I don't know, if this version is going to make any kind of appearance in the movie, but and of course the wings are genetic, I think, in the comics. So these are of course going to be mechanical or whatever you want to call it. So they're going to have to find a way to plug them into her suit, which makes it a little more difficult if maybe the suit is a little more uncovered. But like I said, the thing I loved about the Wasp in the comics is she always wore different costumes. She was a fashion designer, and of course, a woman's prerogative to always look different. And she had so many different costumes in the past, probably have been better than this, not this one, but the previous one, but either of them really. Um, they were always very creative. and very interesting. But it looks to me like this is something more of just a female version of the Wasps. I mean, a female version of Ant Man's costume. It's not very. All right, so let's see. Moving on now, we've got. Let's see. We've got a couple of things I want to do here before we wrap it up. I'm not going to try to go too long tonight. I try to go about an hour and usually go over time because I get so verbose. I'm going to take some, not questions, but comments that I've gotten from my commenters. So if you commented any of my things in the recent past, hear them on my live broadcast. All right, this one is, let me see, I got an image to go with this one because this is something I've been meaning to talk about for a while and I keep putting it off. This is pertaining to Universal's Dark Universe. I got a comment on my Phantom of the Opera 1943 review, which, like I said, is very popular, is doing very well. Beggy, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Elijah Beggy said, "Wonder which version will be used in the Dark Universe," meaning Phantom of the Opera. So I haven't got a chance to talk about this. I keep putting it off, and with the not the I don't want to say failure of the Mummy at the box office. It's kind of in doubt how this thing is going to go down. I don't know if Universal is going to tweak their plan for Dark Universe, but interesting. Uh, from here on, to answer Elijah's question, which version will they use in Dark Universe? I imagine if they're going to go with a Phantom of the Opera, a Phantom from Phantom of the Opera in the Dark Universe, they're going to go something a little bit closer to Lon Chaney's version. I don't think they're going to go too close to. They're definitely not going to go close to the Andrew Lloyd Webber version. They are probably not going to go with the Claude Rains version, although I could see maybe them using the origin of where he gets the disfigurement from Claude Rains, possibly. But I think they're going to stick closer to probably Chaney's version as a disfigured, ghastly looking character, a more ghoulish looking Phantom than Claude Rains. But also, let's take a look at what they have planned here. It says in their press release, Ardum, if I'm pronouncing that wrong again, I don't know, but we all know him from Skyfall. Frankenstein, which that's an interesting choice. What's more interesting is that I hear that the next film in the Dark Universe is going to be Bride of Frankenstein. I'm not sure why you start with Bride of Frankenstein and not Frankenstein. Me, I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen The Mummy. I don't know if they set any of this up in The Mummy. Sophia Botelli, of course, Sophia Botella, I think, is playing the Mummy in that film with Tom Cruise. We also have Johnny Depp is going to play the Invisible Man, which again I don't know if there's any plans for the release of these films. I don't know when they're scheduled for release. That is next, I think, after next after Bride of Frankenstein. Russell Crowe there on the left is Dr. Jekyll and presumably Mr. Hyde. I don't know if they're going to have a CGI Mr. Hyde or if he's just going to do the Spencer Tracy just muss up his hair, and that was always so cheap to me, the Spencer Tracy version. You just muss up his hair and put some, maybe dark makeup under your eyes, and then you're Mr. Hyde all of a sudden. Oh wow! But if you haven't seen the version, that's the best version. You really owe it to yourself to check that one out. That's another one that I probably will do a review for that one this season for our Halloween movie reviews. I didn't. It was on the short list last year, and just barely missed the cut. I decided at the last minute I wanted to do um, the Island of Lost Souls because I wanted one that wasn't a Universal movie, something that was a little more out there, and same thing as wasn't a Universal movie. But out of the two, I decided to go with Island of Lost Souls. But probably I'll get to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the Frederick March version this year when I get to the horror movie reviews for October. Which, by the way, September is right behind, is coming up close. I'm gonna have to start getting to work on those. All right, so yeah, that's about all I got to say about that. We don't know anything really about the Wolfman, which is my favorite Universal horror character. They had a movie a couple of years back with Benicio del Toro. I didn't like it because it's too violent for me. I don't like seeing people's intestines getting ripped out and stuff. That's why I don't know if any of these movies are really going to be for me personally. But I've always been a fan of the original Universal horror characters. My favorite being the Wolfman. Of course, Dracula also is not, represented here. From what I understand, Dracula Undead, was that what it's called, or Dracula Untold? That was a few years ago. Came out, was a bomb, and it was originally supposed to usher in this era of all you know um, horror icons. It didn't do too well at the box office. Luke Evans, I believe, played Dracula. It was an origin story for Dracula. Didn't go over too well, and so I don't know what the plan is, if Dracula is going to be rebooted yet again, or if they're going to bring Luke Evans back and do a soft reboot and pretend that that one didn't happen, or maybe it happened but it wasn't going to be mentioned. We'll find out. All right, let us go on to our next comment here. This is another one and thanks for the question again, Elijah. This next comment comes from Sean Merry on my ranking the Marvel movies live video. And I decided I wanted to take this now as a live question rather than try to find something to say in reply. It's very interesting. Anyhow, Sean Murray says, "Hey, Johnnie Torch, stop criticizing Spider-Man Homecoming for taking risks. Homecoming is not faithful to the comics. You are implying that comic book films should not take any risks and never deviate from the comics. Same reason why comic book fans need to stop whining about the Mandarin twist, because Marvel did something different and fans responded by whining, 'Marvel, how dare you take a risk, wah wah.' Stop criticizing Marvel for taking risk, comic book fans who complained about the Mandarin twist." Okay, so basically what he's saying is don't criticize studios for taking risks. That's always the problem. I mean, taking risks usually doesn't pay off, I'm sorry to say. History pretty much shows that. Now, a lot of people complain and say, oh, the MCU is getting predictable and stale, and we all know what's the formula at this point, and this and that. But the MCU basically, apart from Spider-Man Homecoming, has given me pretty much what I wanted. I mean, if I order a pepperoni pizza and you show up with a sausage pizza, you can say the sausage pizza tastes good. I mean, I like sausage pizza too, sausage on my pizza. But if I asked for a pepperoni pizza, I pretty much want a pepperoni pizza at that time. But like, let's take a look at some risks. Now, look at Batman v Superman. They tried a little something different with Lex Luthor. They made him like this nebbish, uh, you know, semi-comedic character, and it didn't work. It just didn't work. Now, should they be applauded for taking a chance, or should they have just given us the kind of Lex Luthor we expected, that we wanted? And basically, if we look at any of the risks taken in the MCU films, the Mandarin. All right, the Mandarin. It was funny in the movie, and I've said that even in the video. I've done 2 videos now talking about Iron Man 3. It was funny, and I didn't, feel that it was outrageous if you keep the actual Mandarin in the MCU. And of course, they did that later on by doing All Hail the King. Is it? I'm not sure if that's what it was called, or Hail to the King, whatever it was. That that kind of a twist that works only if audience what they want. In the case of Spider-Man Homecoming, which is what he seems to be taking offense at the most here, Spider-Man Homecoming, the risks taken was really, it's one of those things where it falls into the category of just being politically correct. I mean, they don't want to showcase a bully in Flash Thompson because, oh, that won't look good because kids are going to see another kid beating up another kid or something. And to be honest, that was one of my criticisms. If you'll see my The Amazing Spider-Man review, is that I thought that it was overkill the way they had Flash Thompson beat up in The Amazing Spider-Man. I'm still not taking the picture, Flash. I mean, come on. Somebody did that in a school playground, they'd be in jail or, at the reform school or whatever. So I can understand the impetus on Marvel's part where they didn't want to show Flash Thompson as this, big jock that was going to beat up Peter Parker and this and that. That's fine, but they still do justice to Flash by making him a jock, making him, a sportsman. He's a chess club, player or something. That's not the kind of bullying that we can associate with bullies. I mean, people want to say this is a different age and maybe, cyberbullying is, can be done by a 90-pound winkling and everything, but you still have to pay homage to the actual character. You still have to use that was created, which was, and still exists today. I mean, people are still bullies. I mean, it's not like this has gone away somehow in the 21st century. I mean, we still have the sort of jock versus nerd thing even today. But I don't know if, changing Flash into, a cerebral bully is really something to applaud. I mean, that is not something that, you know, a lot of fans could get behind. And I don't think that that was a wise choice. That wasn't a risk that paid off. Anyway, just to touch on a few things here, I just wanted to say also, risks to me is better taken in like casting. Like for instance, it was a risk to cast Michael Keaton as Batman back in the day. Of course, that might be before your time, some of you guys, but I remember it was an uproar back then. It was like Michael Keaton, he's not even 6 foot tall, and he's Mr. Mom, and and it turned out to be great because they gave him a chance. He really did a good job in that role. I mean, I'm not a big fan, as I've said many times, of Batman '89, but it's not because of Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton did a great job, and also, looking a little bit casting of Hugh Jackman. Who would have really thought then? I mean, people said he's over 6 foot tall. Wolverine's not supposed to be over 6 feet tall. Are you kidding? This will never work. And he's got a background in stage theater, and it's crazy. But sometimes those kind of castings work. And Hugh Jackman. I mean, to me, will always be Wolverine. Now, I don't really know, even if they get someone that sounds a little bit more like Wolverine, the feral kind of Wolverine that we kind of imagine from reading the comics, he'll always be Wolverine. He really just nailed that. And of course, there's other risks you can take. Like for instance, nobody's going to see a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Marvel's crazy. They're not going to make a dime on this thing. A talking raccoon and a tree and this and that. No, we know how that worked out. You take a risk and it pays off. But see, that's what it is. You've got to give the audience something, that they can, gravitate to, that they know. I mean, the Guardians of the Galaxy fans probably are just happy that they got a Guardians of the Galaxy film. So take a risk on a lesser known property. That's what my advice would be if you want to take risks in superhero cinema. Take a risk by picking up a character that might not, a resounding success. Try to make it a resounding success. Take a look at Moon Knight or uh, I'm trying to think of a DC one maybe that's a little less known. I mean, because DC really hasn't hit any of their characters yet, so that's why I'm, like I would say Shazam, but of course Shazam is on the plate supposedly in the future. All right, so let's move on here. We gotta move on. But thanks for the comment there, Sean. Watching. I don't know. It sounds to me like you're not really happy with my with my critiques. Okay, next up, I got a comment here from Screencrawler. Check out those guys. They got a nice channel. They got reviews and everything regarding my Karate Kid retrospective. They said, nice review, man. I also liked the way they took the power away from the crane kick in the second one. The first Karate Kid is still one of my all-time faves. Well, thank you for the comment, Screen Crawler. I think that's Steve probably that wrote that one. Yeah, Karate Kid, one of my favorites. I kind of prefer the second one, like I said in the review. If you've seen the review, wait a second. And yeah, that was a smart move on their part to not make the crane kick be the power up that can beat any adversary. Chosen was bad. He was bad news. You know what I mean? He was an even worse and not worse, but I mean, he was an even bigger adversary than they tried to make, than Johnny, but they tried to make like Barnes. I think in the third film, they tried to make Barnes um, like the baddest of the bad. I don't think you can beat Chosen though. Chosen was like the baddest of the bad. I mean, Bad Boy Mike Barnes. He just like one step above maybe a Johnny Lawrence. I mean, maybe even Johnny Lawrence could take him. That's a good question. Could Johnny Lawrence find that out in the YouTube Red series? Mike Barnes takes on Johnny Lawrence in the Cobra Kai dojo for bragging rights. That'll be interesting. All right, next up, let's see. I've got a nice comment here from King of Thunder. This is regarding my video, The Folly of Race Changing. He said, I agree 100%. You took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you, King. And checked out King of Thunder's channel. I love this guy. He's got so many great videos. He reviews comics, does rants. He's done a rant about race changing too as well that you deserve to check out if you some solid talk on the subject. And my video wasn't enough for you. Check out the King's review, the King's rant, I guess. All right, I've got one more here. I've got from Splash Page Comics, one of my favorite guys as well, Mr. White Gloves. He said in response to my the death of the superheroine costume, all female heroes should be naked. Oops, did I just say that? Yes, Mr. White Gloves. I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't know if I'd go that far. They need to wear a scarf at least. We wouldn't want them to catch cold. Everybody for the comments, and thank you for checking out my videos most of all, because it's all about, isn't it? I mean, I make these videos hoping somebody's going to watch, and hopefully someone's going to like them and enough to leave a comment. That should just about do it for today. I think I got everything here. I'm looking at my notes. I think we've talked about everything there is to talk about. I'll try to do another video on Saturday, another live show, I think. I hope the broadcast came through good, because once in a while I have trouble with the sound quality or whatever, and sometimes it cuts out on me. I noticed in some of my older videos it's like that. I don't know, how it is broadcasting. It sounds like it's doing pretty good from what I heard. And check out, of course, my Adventures of Bullets Bourbon comics. The link is in the description below. I'm having a lot of fun working on the 5th book, as I said in my last news roundup, my last video. It's coming along quite well. I'm doing the inking. Soon to be moving on to the coloring. So I'll have some more information about that when we get a little bit closer to its release. Ice Expo in Cambridge come October, so hopefully if you're in the Massachusetts area, you can come on down and see me, see what I look like for the first time, hey? Yeah, I know it. I'm a little camera shy still, but if you come down and see me at the Cambridge, who knows? I'll take a picture with you, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I might still be camera shy, so I don't want to say anything that'll get me in trouble later. Okay, so from Stately Torch Tower, this is Johnnie Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.